Hey everyone, I'm Joe and today it's time for me to do my July reading wrap up. July was a really good reading month. I read 18 books comprising 5 different genres of various different qualities. Most of them I enjoyed. There were a few debatable books, but on the whole it was a good month in terms of actual quality. I'll get straight into the books because otherwise this video is going to be even longer than I know it will end up being, because 18 books, yeah, this ain't going to be quick. Just a warning. Anyway, the first 2 books is The Language of Bees and The God of the Hive, both by Larry R. King. This is the 9th and the 10th books in the Sherlock Holmes and Mary Russell series. This is an alternative idea on Sherlock Holmes, obviously, and basically the original idea in the first book was that Sherlock Holmes meets a young girl called Mary Russell. He realises very quickly that she's got a similar kind of mindset as he does, and they end up working together on a case, and they realise that they actually work together extremely well, and it goes from there basically. At this point, the plot is far more complex, and I can't talk about the plots too much, frankly, and indeed I'm not going to talk about these 2 books too much because I'll give things away. I will be doing an overall series review once I've read all the books that are currently out in them. However, which as about I'm going won't be that long. But suffice to say, I really enjoyed them. And to be honest, actually, this one, The God of the Hive, was probably the most powerful of all of them so far by quite a margin, because this is a bit more personal to both of them. There's a bit more danger involved, and basically the level of the crime and how meaningful it is both to them and indeed to other elements within the book is considerable compared to the other books. I mean, the other books were not lightweight by any means, but by comparison to this is darker. These 2 are basically like part 1 and part 2, however, which is also a first for the series, because so far each book is completely self-contained. This is actually part 1, and then this continues directly afterwards. And they are really, really good, and I was really impressed by them. The next 3 books that I've read were ebooks on my Kindle, so I have no physical books to show you, and those were Setaganda, Ethan of Athos, and Komar, all by Lois McMaster Bujold. These 3 books are part of the Vorkosigan saga, which is a long-running science fiction series. There are currently 16 of them out, and the series has not ended yet, of which I am grateful because I am loving this author and indeed these books, and I'm very grateful for Rachel for encouraging me to read them because they are just frankly brilliant. I can't say too much about them individually, particularly because frankly at this point, I mean I'm over halfway now, I will probably give away plot points for earlier books, and even if they're not plot points I'll give away, there'll be ways characters have been developed at this point that will give away things for earlier books, so I can't really say too much about them, other than the fact the books are based around one family called the Vorkosigans, and in particular, most of them are based around the character of Miles Vorkosigan, who is the son of the main 2 sort of patriarchs, matriarch of the family. And they're just really well written, fun, fast paced. There's dark moments in them, there are light moments in them, and I just love these books, I really do. But I'll say more in that later video in a month or 2's time. The next 3 books I read were all by Isaac Asimov, and those are robots books, and that is I, Robot, The Rest of the Robots, and finally The Complete Robot. These are 3 short story collections, and frankly I didn't realise that most of the short stories in both I, Robot and The Rest of the Robots are contained within The Complete Robot. However, not all of them. There's a few stories that are unique to this, a few that are unique to this, and then a few that are unique to this one. So overall, I'm glad that I read all 3 books. Although frankly, this I didn't really have that much to read because most of it was already been read in the previous few weeks. So this was extremely fast despite its more considerable size. I really did enjoy these. These are obviously set in, indeed, starting Asimov's robot worlds up. There are all sorts of different robot stories in different areas with different sort of themes to them. And overall, I did really enjoy them. There's a few stories in particular that really stand out. One of them is one called Victory Unintentional, which admittedly I've read previous to these three as well. But that one story is frankly fantastic. I'm not going to say why, but it's a really good story. And there are a few others that really do stand out combining this collection. I will be reading the full-length robot novels this month in August, so I'm really looking forward to reading them, starting with The Caves of Steel, which is a well-known one by Asimov. The next two books are action thrillers, and those are Extreme Measures and The Pursuit of Honor, both by Vince Flynn. These are the 11th and 12th book in the MITCH series, of which there are 14 in total. Well, 14 by Vince Flynn anyway. He died a few years ago, and he wrote 14 of them. And there is a 15th and now a 16th, but I'm not personally interested in them because they're not actually by him fully. Anyway, basically, Mitch Rapp is the title character. He's an assassin essentially for the CIA in America. And essentially he's a one-man war on terror. And he believes in doing almost anything it takes to beat the evil terrorists, which you could kind of understand in some ways, but the way he goes about it and frankly his opinions on certain people isn't always easy to read or indeed stomach, and frankly at times the books are a bit of a struggle. I mean, they're easy to read because they're not using any complex language or anything like that, and the plots aren't particularly complex, but his attitude towards other characters is a bit annoying at times, and he's somewhat sexist. I mean, he doesn't start out that way, but frankly, because he's so sort of gungo about beating up the evil terrorists, that he can be sexist, frankly. And I don't know. I mean, I can see past that, frankly, because it's not just the action. These are just easy to read in between all that heavier going things. I started to see these, I'll finish it, but they're not like some phenomenal books. They're just sort of solid action thrillers, frankly. They're like a film in that way. In that sense, it's just a good sort of reliable action thriller. The next book that I read is a science fiction masterwork, and that is Of Men and Monsters by William Tenn. Now this is basically set in a world where some giant aliens have essentially invaded Earth multiple generations past, and they rule the world. And humans have now essentially become like rats, essentially, in the homes and the dwellings of these giant aliens. It sounds weird, but it actually works really well because it's essentially comparing us to rats, and it's trying to think how life would be if we weren't the all-conquering, almighty species that we think we are at the moment. And to all intents and purposes, we are that now. But what about if we weren't? What would happen? Could we cope? How would society evolve? How would we, on a personal level, change? And many other questions. It's done in a really interesting way. It sounds an odd premise, but it actually works extremely well. And I really did enjoy this book. I am still not entirely sure whether I'm going to do an individual review of this yet. If you'd be interested in an individual review, let me know and I'll see what I can do. I'm not entirely sure if I can though, because whilst it's a really good book, some things don't lend themselves to review that well. This should be okay though, so I'll see. But I really did enjoy it, and I would recommend it if you're looking for a very thoughtful and really well written classic science fiction book. The next book that I read was also an SF Masterwork, and that was Double Star by Robert A. Heinlein. Now, obviously, Heinlein is a big name within science fiction, of course. He's one of the big classic science fiction writers, although his personal opinions, especially towards the sort of final group of books that he did, started to be rather apparent and the less well-liked than his earlier things. This was one of his earlier books, and it was a really, really good one, actually. Basically, the idea of the book is that there is an actor called Lorenzo Smythe. He is out of luck, basically, as far as work goes, and one day he's approached in a bar and he's asked to impersonate an important politician. And he's a bit dubious about it, but they sort of persuade him and he goes along with it. The only problem is then, though, is a case of what happens, though, if the politician he's impersonating starts to become ill, or if he were to be assassinated. What would happen then? Because does he then have to impersonate this person for multiple years? Because his idea is only a temporary thing for a few months. So what happens, and how serious will it become? Will it be serious, or will it be just ultimately a big sort of show? And nobody's quite sure what's going on. And you as the reader, you're never entirely sure if he's going to end up doing this role for long. Is it all some sort of big sham? Is it sort of like covert forces behind the scenes manipulating people? You're never sure. And I like that aspect, you're never quite that sure. It's well written, and it takes a little bit to get into, frankly, admittedly, but overall, I actually did enjoy this, and indeed, it is a good Heinlein book, so I would highly recommend it, because it's just interesting, and the ideas in particular are interesting. The next book that I read is yet another masterwork, and that is A Case of Conscience by James Blish. And James Blish is yet again another well-known author within classic science fiction, not probably quite as well known as Heinlein, because Heinlein was known sort of almost outside of science fiction just by his reputation. Blish not so much, frankly, but he's still extremely good writer. This is a book where they go to a planet called Lithia. It is one guy in particular, Father Ramon Ruiz Sanchez, and he is going there to essentially investigate this alien species, which have this apparently sort of idyllic lifestyle. It's a kind of an Eden. They have no concept of sin on this planet, and obviously he is a religious man. He works for the church, and he goes there to investigate this. And there's one alien in particular he gets to know, and it's a case of what is sin? Is sin something that we create? Is it inbuilt in humans? Can sin be sort of learnt or sort of sort of passed on through osmosis or some other means, basically by us to another species? It's an interesting question. However, the first half of the book, and indeed the book is split in two halves, and it's only a small book as well. The first half of the book, frankly, was pretty boring. It doesn't really get into the plot very well. The characters aren't that interesting, and it's a bit of a mess, frankly. The second half of the book, however, does pick up a fair bit, and it starts to explore the ideas that you want to explore, basically. It explores the idea that I've just said, and it does compensate to a degree for the sort of failure of the first half. However, the first half was a fairly large failure, frankly. So overall, I can't mark it too highly because the first half was so bad, I have to admit. But overall, I still liked it. I just wish the first half was a bit stronger, because it just sort of goes off in a slightly odd way, and it doesn't start very well, which was disappointing because I wanted more from this book, frankly, because of what it is, and it didn't really meet up that book. It's one of these things. The next book that I read is also an SF masterwork, but this is the last one I've read, by the way, so you're not going to see any more yellow for this video, and that is The Long Tomorrow by Lee Brackett. Now, Lee Brackett is not as well known as probably the other two, maybe, although she's certainly significant within science fiction, and one thing that she's influential in is the fact that she was one of the original scriptwriters for, I don't know, let's say a small little known film called Star Wars. So, she's not exactly like unknown, and she's certainly important within science fiction as a whole. This is a book where it is a science fiction dystopian, and essentially this is a sort of post-apocalyptic world, and the government has set a rule, at least the American government has set a rule, where no city, no town, no community of more than 1,000 people or 200 buildings to the square mile shall be built or permitted to exist anywhere in the United States of America. This is a new amendment to the United States. Basically, this is to try and keep the population in any one area fairly small, and because the idea is that the problems that occurred were because humanity sort of outgrew itself basically. It became, there's too many people in too small an area, and that's why this big nuclear war happened and why the world is basically ruined for. So now, if everybody's only in very small communities dotted around the place, it will be safer, frankly, and there'll be no reason for that kind of war again. However, because there's now been multiple generations since this, the level of technology and understanding of science and culture and things has drastically dropped. There's remnants of this technology in the book and in the world, but it's relatively small by comparison. The book is based on one young guy. He's sort of coming into sort of manhood within his own small community, but he realises something's not right about the way this system works. To him, it doesn't work, it shouldn't work. And along with his friend and cousin, things happen, let's say, and they question the nature of society and what this society means and what it could mean. I can't say too much more about the plot because I'll give away spoilers, but I really did enjoy this. It had some interesting questions. It had some very dark moments in it indeed. It had some surprisingly light moments. It had humour. It had horrible violence. I mean, it had just a really interesting mix of every element you could want in a book, with some really interesting ideas and some really interesting questions asked. And I really did enjoy this book, and I would highly recommend it if you're looking for something very thoughtful and well written. The next book that I read was Pigs Have Wings by P.G. Wodehouse. This is one of the books in the Blandings series, of which there are, I think, 14 in total. I could be mistaken, could be 12, I think it's 14. Anyway, in every book, and this is a perfect example, they're fairly predictable in terms of overall idea, is that basically it is based around one guy in particular, Lord Emsworth, who is this eccentric sort of upper class Englishman in high society, set around the same time as the novel was written, in the sort of 1920s, 1930s, and he's not a very sort of organised person. He's always getting mixed up over what's happening around him, and frankly that sets the tone for all the books, because there are always people coming to the house in each book in disguise, pretending to be other people. People are falling in love with each other, and then there's a lot crossed lovers and things, and people misunderstanding everything at every opportunity. Lord Emsworth is confusing everybody without even question, and it's just mad. The books are, but they're really fun, and they're just a nice fun interlude between heavier going books, and I just love these books. I really do. I didn't think I would when I first picked them up. I was a bit wary of them, but I'm really glad I'm reading them, and I will do a sort of an overall Blandings series review once I've finished all of them, which I think I've only got 2 more left now, so probably only be a month or 2 and I'll do a series review for them. But yeah, really good book. The next book that I read was Dandelion Wine by Ray Bradbury. I buddy read this with a fellow booktuber, namely James, whose channel is called James Chatham, whose channel I will link in the description box below, of course. This book is classed as fiction. This is basically a book where the main character is a young boy in a town called Greentown, America, which is kind of basically, it's like a alternative sort of fictionalized version of the town that Ray Bradbury himself grew up in America. And it is a book about summer and about the sort of the end of childhood and the loss of innocence, and when you're starting to realise that the world isn't quite as open and as sort of imaginative as you think it is, or at least not in the same way you think it is. And this young boy goes through this journey, and frankly the writing of the book is beautiful. I mean, Bradbury frankly is known for that, because his writing is phenomenal. It really is. I mean, that's, I can't, my words can't put into words the way Bradbury writes. He knows more words than I do by a long way. I mean, his writing is beautiful, pure and simple. The ideas in the book are fairly simple, but again, because of the writing, they're given extremely high emphasis and imagery, and it's just a joy to read because it's just so innocent and so sort of light and airy. So I just really enjoyed this book. I may or may not attempt to review this. I'm not sure yet because it might not be the easiest book to review because of style and stuff. But I don't know. I'll see. But I really did enjoy this. And if you're interested in a fiction book by Ray Bradbury, who's a well-known author, then I would recommend this because it really is quite an interesting one, and frankly, it's beautiful overall. The penultimate book is an ebook which I read on my Kindle, and that is What I Didn't See and Other Stories by Karen Joy Fowler. Now, I read this because I actually got this only a few months ago in a humble bundle for like a super low price. So I thought, I just thought on the spur of the moment I'd read it at the end of the month. And yeah, frankly, I wasn't impressed at all. This is a short story collection. It's kind of more fantasy than anything else. Some of them are more general fiction. Kind of hard to categorise, frankly. And most of them weren't that impressive. They were just, they had little interesting moments in them. But frankly, I can't really say much about this book because I read it quite quickly. I didn't particularly enjoy it at all because none of the stories were that significant. They all felt sort of just minor things, and I didn't really have any expectations either though, so at least I didn't go into expecting something great and failing to deliver. I had no expectations and it didn't work out. So in that sense it's completely fine. I'm quite happy that I read it. And it didn't take long as well, so it's not like I spent hours and hours reading it for a not particularly impressive book. And the final book that I read was Marauder by L.L. McNeil. Now, this was an ebook as well. Now, I'm going to be doing a separate review of this probably next week, so I am not going to be saying too much about it now. However, this is a fantasy novel, and it is frankly brilliant. I really enjoyed this. The main word I would use to describe this is fun. And this novel was just so fun, it really was. After this sort of end of the month where I read several darker books, then I went on to this, and this was like lighter. I mean, obviously it has its dark moments, but generally it's lighter, it's really fun, fast paced, and I really enjoyed it. And I will be reading the sequels. This is part of a 6-book series in total, will be. Only the first book is out so far. But yeah, I'll talk about it next week anyway. So with that said, that's it for everything that I read in the month of July. Overall, it was a rather good month, a rather large amount of books, of which I can barely hold, to be honest. I'm going to put them down before I drop them. Just so I managed it. If you've read any of these books or would like to, then please let me know and we can have a conversation as always in the comments. Also, if you have any suggestions for me on books that you think I might like based on any of these, then also leave a comment because I'm always open and also quite interested to have suggestions. All my social media links as well as any other relevant links that I can think of will be found in the description box below. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.